I'm Marc Anderson. I am a SharePoint MVP, independent consultant, and I am really into the client-side development part of SharePoint, making the user experience better, doing branding, and pretty much everything else that I have to do to make all of that work well.
Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Ohio in the United States, but I actually live in Boston. I think probably I focus mostly on the content and the build. So like I said before, I'm really interested in the user experience. I want to make SharePoint feel better and work better to actually support business processes. And in order to do that, I end up writing code that sits in the browser, so mostly JavaScript-based development. And to me, that's the closest thing to the user. It's right behind the glass. It's the thing that the browser can, or the user can react to most quickly. They don't really care what happens on the server. So it's really all about getting that content into the browser in an effective way so that the users can interact with it, and also writing some code, building the capabilities around that to make it work well. I do love JavaScript. CSS. I want to talk about some of the frameworks we can use to make better sort of interactivity in SharePoint pages, things like Knockout, Angular. We can talk about some of the other frameworks that I use or that people have been using in SharePoint recently and going back quite some way. It doesn't matter what version of SharePoint you use, which is nice too. I mean, I still work in 2007 a lot. We built single page applications in 2007. Can also do, of course, apps in 2013. So a lot of this technology traverses very well depending on where you are in the SharePoint spectrum. Some of the things are it's anywhere from power users, the audience for a lot of these things is anywhere from power users to full-on developers. The reason I bring in power users is because with SP services, for instance, I have a function that does cascading drop-downs. That's something that an end user can set up. You drop a little bit of script in a page, you set a couple of parameters, and bang, it works. So some of these things can be encapsulated in functions or in little tool sets that end users can use. And then we also have, of course, much more complex things that we can do, the professional JavaScript developer on top of SharePoint. So that's the range, and I do try to span that range to some degree so that everybody who comes can get something out of it. Aha, my earliest SharePoint memory. I'm one of those Tahoe people, team something services. It goes way back, so I can't remember it all. 1999, I believe it was. I was working for a company, and we actually went out to Redmond to talk to what turned into the SharePoint team about how they were building that on top of Exchange at the time. The Exchange store was going to be the database underneath before they decided to use SQL. So I've got a memory that goes way, way, way back. So I used to keep bees. That's one of my standard ones. 75,000 pet bees when I was a teenager. My mom made me do it. What else? I have a 9-year-old son who's one of the most awesome kids in the world. We do Legos together a lot. We're working on the London Tower Bridge right now. Very complicated. There's really not a lot of interesting things about me because I spend so much time writing code for SharePoint in my spare time that I don't really have any other hobbies. What I do for work is what I love to do, which is an awesome place to be. I find all SharePoint conferences to be fascinating. I learn so much at every single one, and SPC is no different. I think my favorite sessions, and I go to a lot of sessions, people say to me, but you already know everything. It's like, that's crazy talk. I've gone to a couple of Scott Hilliard's sessions where he talks about some of the things that he does in JavaScript, and it's mind blown every single time. So, I think that when you go to a conference about a technology like SharePoint, you should assume you're going to learn a tremendous amount no matter what your knowledge level is. And I just love it. You know, I actually, you know, some of these conferences I go to and I get in free because I speak, but I go to the sessions because I always learn a lot. And SPC is great. I'm here as an attendee, so I get to go to all the sessions I want. I have not been to Australia or New Zealand. I've actually never been to anywhere on the Asian side of the world. So I'm quite excited to see it, get a glimpse of things. And I've met many people from Australia and New Zealand, and you're all a lot of fun. So I know it'll be a good trip. Can't wait to see you all in New Zealand and Australia.